Without further ado, let's begin. Good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Fireside chat on Beyond Damage Control Communication as a Pillar of Incident Response. I am Aditi Chandan Shive from CXO Junction, and it is so great to see all these esteemed guests, such as yourselves, among us today. You have taken time out of this precious schedule to join us for this enlightening fireside chat.
Good morning. Good
Hi,
morning.
good
So,
morning. Hi.
hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in this morning session of a really important topic, which we have been facing a lot these days, right? This is something which has been missing in with most of the organizations we have seen, and it's a very critical aspect for cybersecurity itself. Today is one session which, I'm having after this is one of the first sessions I'm having with not a CISO, right? Most of my sessions are with the CISOs delving into a technical aspects of it. Today, it's an effort for me to really talk about non-security aspects of it, but a lot of other aspects that are going to be involved in security, right? That's going to help us. So what really happens is, whenever we have seen that there's a lot of breaches happening, we have seen that the organizations are effectively able to manage the breach. But what is not going right is the communication, the way it is being communicated, the way the problem has been conveyed to the stakeholders. It really lacks an empathy, a strategy. It lacks a trust in the security teams. We have seen organizations talking about breach, and the breach does not talk about, the communications does not talk about the trust in their security teams, trust in their own security, which they have spent millions of dollars to just build that up, right? I could have got easily a CISO on this talk, to give me a strategy that how effectively they can do a forensics, they can do a breach report, and all the technical expertise about. But today we are not going to talk about that. Today, my focus is always is going to be communication, and that needs to be non-technical. That needs to be to build a trust. That needs to be build a trust not only on the organization but also on the CISO as well as the CISO team, right? So for that, I have two people who are absolutely, one of the non-technical person, but they are so related to security. First is Ms. Ronita Seen Gupta, right? Ronita, I'd like to thank you for joining us. But just to give her an introduction, I would like to read here. She has got almost 2 decades of experiences in handling human resource. She is a strategic communication expert who understands the delicate balance between a transparency, discretion, and stakeholder management. A very, very important quality to have when we talk about an incident response or a communication during an incident, right? She really understands the best what mindset an organization goes through or a victim goes through during the time or a business goes through during the time of a cyber incident. She has worked creating a unified communication strategy for an organization during her absolute, two decades of experiences. She has been able to be empathetic in the times of apathy, building trust, and being a driving force in the organization growth. So thanks a lot, Ronita, for joining us. And next is somebody we all know who is very dear to us and whom I normally look at as, not just a cyber crime investigator. I'm actually really, concerned today and really nervous when I'm talking to him today because this is the first time it's me and Ritesh who are on the same talk and I'm interviewing him. So this is something really, really important for me. But yes, I always look at to him. I mean, I don't know how many of you, if you can put down me in comments and tell me that you have seen a movie called The Negotiator. It's an Hollywood movie of 2002, if I'm not wrong. Right. This movie was basically about a negotiator who is involved in talking to a lot of terrorists in the time of hostage situations. And I look up to Ritesh today as that. He has been involved in multiple high stakes negotiations and, you know, uh, he's known for his digital diplomacy. I mean, I can go on talking about him, but I don't want to waste this time. This is a very 50 minutes, critical 50 minutes we have, and I want to get best of both the worlds, right? So without delving much into the discussions, let me give ask with the first thoughts. Ronita, communication. First thoughts about you. I don't want to get into other incident response part, but communication, what it means to you, and I'll go to Ritesh, and then we start.
Thank you, Ajay. It is an absolute honor to be in the presence of such an illustrious and distinguished panel. Absolute honor to be here on this show with you, Ajay, and with Ritesh. But coming back to the question that you asked me, that what does communication mean for you? Now, I've been an HR and a corporate communications professional along with change management for the last 21 plus years. And I think communication is the key to any foundation that we build at an organization level. You could say that it's a heartbeat that is important, when we lay the foundation of any processes, of any governance model, of anything that is related to, let's say, people, practices, and of course, leadership. So I think in today's world, communication is the one that synergizes and it stitches up the narrative and story across the organization. So I think if you're a leader and if you're in the communications department, you need to understand that you are holding the key to some very important stakes of the organization. So I think that is how communication is critical today in today's digital world, in any industry, in any profession that you may belong to.
Thank you, Ronita. Ritesh, over to you. What do you mean? What is the importance of communication to you? Bec- Over to you.
Well, for me, communication is a double-edged sword because look at the positive thing of it that we are able to communicate to over 50 attendees and all those other people who have joined live as such. And so this is the power of the internet communications, and it has bridged so many things. In fact, like today, we are able to speak to people across the globe. I'm able to communicate with the hackers. Okay, so for me, the communication
I'm
is
coming to
like
that. I'm
yes, yeah.
coming to
So for me, as of now, I'm in the mood where I'm only and only communicating with the hackers. So right now, yeah, that is the communication that is taking away my sleeps.
that.
So no
Right.
wonder he calls it a double-edged sword, because for him, definitely it is.
And we are going to discover that, because the first thing which, Ritesh, I want to come to you with start is that, you do not get, you as an investigator or a communicator, you do not get directly called up. The first person who gets called up in the organization is the security or a CISO team, right? Because a threat actor would reach out to the organizational stakeholders or a management, right, with a simple letter or an email or a WhatsApp or anything, to a right person or a management stakeholder about that they are going breached. Now the message comes to the communication comes to the CISO team.
So yeah,
Now this is one first critical junction. When we talk about the complete breach handling or incident response handling, this is the first place where you can actually establish your leadership or dominance, or you say that you are screwed, right? So what
yeah.
is it one should really take care of, even at the management level or at the CISO level?
I think firstly, the CISO should not call me directly because he's a complete technical guy. He just tells me, Ritesh, we are jacked. Please help me. They always tell me, "Tu hamesha bolta hai, sabka katega," and they call me and they say, "हाँ, आज मेरा कट गया है, भाई तो अभी मेरे को बचा ले." But then so this is really not the right the right thing to do, that the CISO directly calls me. Ideally, they have to sit across the board, and I need that one point of contact who can tell me. So who's also a decision maker, who can say, okay, go ahead and we can do this. So this is then I need a person who has to tell me this. Please don't use this. Like for example, in one of the cases when I was negotiating with the hacker. So he told me like, I had to buy time from them. So in negotiations, the first thing we do is like we try to buy time. So then I told him that the board had to meet. And later on the CISO comes and tells me, "Arey yaar, board word क्यों use किया तुमने?" So this is where I need that one person, preferably, and that's why I feel that it has
So
to be the
hold,
corporate.
hold, hold.
Yeah,
So Ritesh, I think this is
yeah,
where Anita really comes into picture. And when you said that
yes,
the CISO needs to sit across the board or the management and talk about what is the current situation and try to establish one point of contact. So Ronita, your role really becomes really critical out here, because you are one person who is going to really drive those communication, who is going to really see that what's in the favor of the organization and what needs to be communicated, because the communication is not only with the management or with Ritesh, but it is also with to the hacker through Ritesh, right? So what is your role out here? What care do you feel you need to take at this first point of juncture?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this in a bit of, segment wise. So when I look at communications, or let's say at an organization level, it's the corporate comms, which takes care of any such situation that may arise because of, a cybersecurity case or a incident that has happened already. Now let's understand that we basically act as the bridge which connects all the critical teams during such crisis. Now, when this incident happens or any such situation comes up, the focus of the communications team should be on building a crisis response task force, which should have representatives from, whether it's the legal team, the HR team, the IT team, and even the topmost stakeholders of the organization, Ajay, because the understanding at that point of time between this crisis team is to ensure that we streamline decision making. So our input or our emphasis should be to have a clear and concise and timely internal updates to our external audience and to our internal audience, because it is vital that at that point of time, you're aligning everyone as the communications team. That's the role that is very, very critical at that point of time. Now, let's understand that keeping in mind the nature and extent of the incident that has probably happened, okay, to that particular brand, or it's a data breach issue or whatever that has taken place, let's understand that one has to keep in mind as a comms team that you're driving the key talking points and what information can be disclosed. So even if it is Ritesh who's come on board as our investigator and negotiating with the hacker, I have the responsibility to convey to Ritesh what are some of the critical points that he can convey and what
Something
he
that is
should
not
not.
negotiable, that cannot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because let's understand the brand, the reputation, everything is at stake at that point of time. So even, it's a very tricky situation. One has to understand from the comms perspective, what is it that you should help, let's say, an external expert like, Ritesh, or you're handling media houses, or, let's say the digital world, the social media. How should you go with that, one narrative and not go across the places? So that is very important. So it is essential to craft a single source of truth, ensuring that all the communication that is happening, the communication channels, are consistent across different stakeholders, whether it is an internal or
But
external.
but Ronit, at the time, as you said that, the single source of truth, that's what we are looking at. How much time is required to create that? Because that cannot be created on the fly. You need to have that real perspective in place, because at the time of breach, everybody is questioning. Your stakeholders are questioning, your business owners are questioning, your investors are questioning. The CISO has been bombarded everywhere, right? Now, this is one place, you need to be at the juncture. But before I get into this, right, Ritesh, I want to ask you here, right? And this is really, really important. Why negotiate? Why do we really need to negotiate? Because we as an organizations, we as a country, we have seen that we do not negotiate with the hackers, we do not negotiate with the terrorists. Then why enroll yourself as a part of it? Are we trying to, like, inability that, they are not capable able to handle the breach, or it's like that? Or is there something else we are looking at?
So firstly, Ajay, when it comes to negotiations, this is not like, when you say we don't negotiate with the terrorists. Of course, we have negotiated with the terrorists. If you see the Kandar hijack that had happened, we had to negotiate. We had to let go of the terrorists over there, right? There have been like already 3 movies made on it. So negotiations do happen. They happen at very, very large levels, at diplomatic levels also. They keep happening, whether it has been the drug mafia, the underworld, the terrorists, everywhere negotiations have happened. That's the reason there are movies like The Negotiator, correct? So the thing is, and negotiation doesn't mean this always, paying into a ransom. This is one of the misconceptions, that when I'm negotiating with the hacker, which means I am ready to pay him some ransom. No, I am negotiating so that I can get a lot more information. So that part of instead of calling it as communication, we call it as negotiation. Why negotiation? Because I am buying in time at that point of time. The corporate communication team tells me, listen, I'm going to get the people around, please anyhow manage him so that he doesn't go and leak the data or whatever it is, till we come up with a. So that is the time that I have to keep him engaged, that he doesn't do any
The
such
damage.
thing, any damage.
And now I see that's this as a reason, because I was always being questioned that why can't a CISO or somebody from a security team can be a negotiator to the hacker, because if that person is going to be there, he's going to try and either not give any information or try to give more information about the organization than required, and rather than having somebody outside the organization to handle this communication, who is who really can understand the mindset of the hacker, right? So I think this is something which is really important, and I think you rightly said, buying out time, because that is not there. Normally a threat actor which reaches out to you, they don't give you much time, right? So you need
No,
to
no,
have
no.
somebody.
The only thing they give me is are abuses. They give me sleepless nights and they keep abusing me like left and right.
Oh, is
Okay.
it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the cuss words are like plenty. I have a big dictionary of it right now. Okay. So there are a lot many cuss words, and then the way they tell us, you Indians are like that, you Indians are like that. And that is the time when I can't, I have to control my emotions, because I know he's demeaning my country. I can go and tell anything. But at that point of time, it is not the right thing to do also, because that can create a, just because I'm not able to handle that emotion, I can do a lot more damage to the organization which has actually asked me to do that particular job. So the only thing that they give me,
It's
time to
as
they
per the
never give
hostage
me.
crisis.
Yes,
It's as,
that is, yeah. So that is what it is. So I have to, like, kind of take it. And that's the reason it's very important that, this corporate communication team comes in the forefront and not the CISO. Because whenever I've tried to ask anything to the technical guy, to the CISO or anybody else, he says, okay, let me speak to my superior. His superior says, let me speak to the CEO. CEO says, let me speak to the board. I mean, ये मेरा कोई वो नहीं है, जमाई नहीं बैठा है कि वो बोलेगा हाँ भाई
that is where
हाँ
Ronita
दादा.
comes in. Ronita, now this is,
Yeah.
you heard from Ritesh, right? This is the problem. You have to talk to the legal, you have to talk to the executive leadership, you need to talk to the PR teams, and
Yes.
this is difficult. You spoke about creating a team, a
A
crisis
crisis team.
management team, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, everybody would like to take their share of of a 2 minute of uh, superhero ship, right? That मेरे
Huh.
बोलने में ऐसा हुआ करके types, right? And this is where you need to really be. Ritesh is laughing out here, right?
Yeah, because all they have done is created only and only disasters for themselves and for me. And then they call me later on once they
Yeah.
have done the
So
damage.
Ronita, over to you, man. You got my question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think while I understand the agony that Ritesh has gone through in several such situations, but as a communications, professional, I can say that, organizations can definitely mitigate this and prepare their leadership team and the crisis team for any kind of high pressure situations. Okay. So for instance, imagine we need to go for a press conference, okay, where we have to talk about the crisis. Now let's understand one thing, Ajay, that preparation or having that narrative stitched together is a key to avoiding missteps whenever you're in a stressful situation like this. So for instance, it is important, given the fact we don't know when the crisis will come knocking at our door, but you need to have a crisis communication training for all your stakeholders and for all your verticals. It is an imperative, it is non negotiable. So let's understand that from time to time, from the comms point of view, from handling this crisis management, we need to conduct regular mock drills for leadership, for CISOs, for teams, IT teams, HR teams, legal teams, so that we can have these simulated press interactions, as well as how do we handle the narrative together to build confidence and readiness. That is definitely the foremost thing that I can suggest as a communication expert. The second thing is to have a key message development. So we should be able to provide our leaders, our stakeholders, a proper sheet of the do's and the don'ts of what should be the key messages, whether it includes acknowledgement of the issue, because it is a must. You're dealing with a lot of external stakeholders, external public, so you have to be very careful about it. Then I think you need to also understand what are the steps that should be taken to address it. So whether you are reassuring your stakeholders through timely communication about the safety commitment that you are engaged with, about, helping your leaders to be media coach. See, sometimes what happens is you're right in saying, Ajay, people want to take the share of the credit. Okay. So there are tongues wagging. I am saying one narrative to the media. My CEO is saying something else. My CISO is saying something else. So what happens ultimately is a chaos, is a mess that we lead our organization to. And what happens in the long run? It's a reputational damage. It is definitely a huge blow to the organization in the outside world, which we cannot afford as a communications department. So let's understand that we need to have very, very thought out intervention. So whether you are doing media coaching for them, okay, you're teaching leaders to handle tough questions by sticking to the message, by helping them avoid speculation and redirecting questions back to prepared responses. So say, I am not going to allow my CEO or my CISO or anybody to just go and blurt out anything they want. Let's understand that if there are questions coming, you may not respond to it at that point of time, but take your time to come back together, understand what is in the best interest of the organization and of the people that you're committed to, let's say your clients, your customers, your stakeholders, and go back with the factual narrative and not spill out stories or anything which is misinformation. I think that is very important from the communication aspect that one should keep in mind.
I think there are, I mean, in my experience, I have seen, I mean, you rightly said that key message, what a stakeholder should really speak, or what is his role. He should not be like poking around. Okay, bhai, iska ye hacker, bhai, aapne kya baat kiya, wo batao. I mean, that's not his role. His role
Exactly.
is to make sure that everything is smoothly working. I have come across certain tools which really prepares, and I think Ritesh himself has been involved in such we call it as a tabletop exercise in, cybersecurity is full of jargons. We call it as a tabletop exercises, right? So, I mean, Ritesh has been doing that, just, yeah, he's been involved in this. But yeah, Ritesh, coming to you, right? You have been interacting with the threat actors, and I have heard stories with the CISOs, right? That they are driven with multiple agendas, right? And when we are in a hostage situation, right? As you said that you want to take out time so that the organization decide what to do and all. But what are your strategies? What are your how do you try to play around with the motivations of the threat actors and their tactics so that organization gets that time to negotiate or understand that where they stand.
So, what I try to do firstly, I try to validate their claim. Like when they say they've got so much kind of data, it's okay. You may have like 10 TB of data. That 10 TB of data could be like, let's say 100 movies also from my machine. So I don't care about that. You say when you have the personal data of my customers, give me the evidence of that. You say, no, I will just show it to you, this thing or that thing. I don't believe into that. I literally need that sample data. Now, in fact, in one of the recent cases, what has happened is that he shared the data, but the data was of some other company and he's trying to sell it off to me. So these hackers also now, because the new age ones, they think, okay, let us just go and show something like that. They will get, let's say, 4 fields only from a particular database. They will get maybe just one table and then they will merge it with the other tables of other such companies. And then they will say, look, I've got like, 30 million records. Are rubbish, what you got 30 million records? Show me the records. Once you get the records, I have to validate each and every column of it, whether it really exists or it doesn't exist. So that's my also role with that. So here is where I try to take time from him. He, look, boss, I got to validate. Then I keep lying because the way he keeps lying, I also keep lying. I said, no, this data is not there. This data is not there. Then he tries to give me a lot more information. Oh, you really got to check this database. Oh, you really got to check this database. Okay, thank you so much. I will check back. And then I play on with the time zone difference and things like that. So there are a lot many things, but of course, it sounds very easy that I can do it, and I think that's the reason why have we seen like let's take in one of the insurance companies wherein it really made a lot of news. I believe that was a fallout with the hacker. So this is where that company could have gone wrong. This is what I'm assuming, because the hacker went ahead and said, "Oh, the CISO was involved and this and that." I'm pretty sure the
Yeah,
CISO is
we all heard about it. We all heard
yeah.
about
We all, any person with a like the minimum of the common sense they have, they are not going to believe that the CISO was coordinating with him from his official email ID, right? So because the hacker showed that, listen, this is he's negotiating with me with his official email ID, and they tried to put the blame on the CISO. That actually happened because this is what I feel. I'm assuming this because I deal with them every day, because that was a fallout, a complete fallout between something that the organization would have promised and something that they didn't do. Vis-a-vis a recent breach that happened, the management. I mean, I really enjoyed doing their case, because in the last company that I did, what number one, they gave me a complete free hand. There was that one person who was there. Fortunately, the CISO himself, but he had his team always sitting with him, the corporate communication and everyone. On the speaker at that point of time, and only one person would talk to me. They would hear, all of them would hear me, so that this person doesn't have to waste time in explaining to each and everyone. He knew time was of essence, and Ritesh has very, very little time. So they had to move very fast. So they were very clear about what they had to do. Their strategy was very clear. So this particular support that you, so this is the kind of support that I really require, and this is where the corporate communication comes into picture. Because once I remember, I told them, okay, the board is going to meet today. So then I come to know that they tell me, why did you use the word board? So I told CISO, bhai, ye sab pehle bolna chahiye. Then he says, Are no, the corporate communication told me. I said, then why are you getting involved? See, CISO is only a technical guy. He can't take decisions related to anything, let's say financial. Sometimes, you know what, I literally have to pay them a few $1,000s just to like keep them like that. Now, few $1,000s is okay to buy out a little bit of time. And I'm, so it's absolutely okay. I personally feel. So that time, the finance guy has to be there. The legal guy has to take care that, because I also need to take care of so many things, whether I'm taking the screenshots or not taking the screenshots, or what do I have to say? Because what if the hacker takes my screenshots and he puts it
Yeah.
online? So I have to be very, very careful. So people think
it.
it's an easy thing to do, but it is not. It is very complicated. You're under stress every second, under like a sword hanging under your on your neck.
One important aspect which Ritesh you really identified was that validation, right? Because every time you receive this kind of threats of a ransomware or a data breach or anything like that, the first thing which really important is, and which needs to be effectively communicated. Either you can just take the word of the threat actor and say that it's done, right, and create a hue and cry about it, or be calm in that situation and trying to get as much as information, because at the end of the day,
Yes.
that will not only help a CISO team to establish that this can really happen, can the data from that particular column go out, right? Because that is going to really be helpful on that case, right? So I think the validation is something which is really, really important out here. Okay. Apart from that, yeah. So coming to you, Ronita, now you spoke about the media interactions, right? There's lot of this happens in the media. There is, whenever there is a breach, I've seen media trials happening left, right, and center, right? So and so company was not able to do this. So and so company was not able to do that, right? And there's a lot of misinformation. कह रहे यार उधर तो सीसो ने ही problem कर दिया है, right? Whereas companies do not realize the amount, the time which goes, right? Or the people does not realize it. So the point is that how are you going to handle this kind of misinformation? How are you going to handle this high pressure, I would say, conferences or press conferences or interviews during this crisis?
Thanks, Ajay, for the question. And I was just going to kind of, come back to this point, because we are all aware of, the speculative narrative that media promotes during any such incidents. Okay, whichever. I think Ritesh has also come across this, where media is just there to pounce and go ahead and, give all kind of misinformation in today's digital age. And one misstep can cost the company, I think, billions of dollars. And, as I said, that loss of reputation. But let's understand that when misinformation can quickly spiral out of control, we need to keep in mind that as an organization, there has to be a proactive monitoring. So we as communications department have our own resources and our tools to monitor media and social platforms for false narratives. So we should be extremely careful and cautious whenever this kind of incidents happen. And we should have the task team. I think I will call that a war room team, Ajay, that should be there to monitor like hawks, what is happening on the social media forums, and keep the uh, keep ourselves absolutely safeguarded, that should things spiral out of control, we need to immediately get into damage control. Then there is immediate response. So as a communications team or as a leadership team of the organization, our responsibility is to address any kind of significant information that media may go out and cascade very very promptly with factual corrections via official channels. So we can do press releases, we can go out on our social media handles and absolutely go ahead and say that this was a false narrative, the truth is this. We have the right to do that. Okay, so those avenues should be considered. And let's understand that there is a need to have clear communication that point of time. So you issue statements clarifying the facts and also ensure that you are taking care to dispel the rumors without over explaining. Don't over explain. Don't give every fact and figure. Okay,
The
because
question
that will only
Yeah,
add fuel.
question out here is that when we say that it has to be very direct, short, crisp communication, right? From this so-called war room team, right? Who is the right person to do it? I mean, how do you really identify that person? Because I'm sure I do not want a CISO team to really go at it because
No,
they
no.
are in the load, right? They are
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
managing the situation, right?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
They are trying to curb the whole attack scenarios.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
who should be the right team in this?
Okay, I will blurt out two names, or rather two, leadership positions who should actually be the official spokesperson at this point of time. So one is Ajay. We should either have the head of the corporate communications, okay, who should actually be voicing out, these information out to the audience, or we should have the highest body of leadership. It could be a CEO or the managing director of the organization who should go out and give these statements, which are absolute proper factual information via press releases, press interviews. And there is a social media team, there is a PR team, okay, with whom you're aligning. They should go ahead and be your official spokesperson on any social media handles to ensure that there is a complete transparency, where if the misinformation has arisen from lack of information, we need to share what responsibly can prevent those rumors. So that is one. And I will urge the audience over here, you are here today from the communication segment or any kind of corporate comms function, please remember, the quicker you respond to misinformation, the less likely it is to gain traction. The more you sit on it, the more you procrastinate, you lose time, you lose time to safeguard your organization, the damages, and you lose trust of your stakeholders. Your audience, your stakeholders, your clients, your customers will be gone. So let's remember that.
Yeah, so the time is the key is what we are looking at,
Yes.
right? So coming to you, Ritesh, as you said, I mean, you have been in quite a lot frustrating situations while communicating with the threat actors or communicating with the organizations, right? Give me 4 points which you would need and bulleted points that so that you can be an effective communicator. You have already spoken few, but let's pen it down for our audience that these are four non-negotiable things which you would need that so that you can effectively communicate to the threat actor and back to the organization.
Well, firstly, you need to, as I told you earlier, also you need to like literally have a lot of patience. Okay. Secondly, you should be over there to take any sort of cuss word. They will say things, very bad things about you, about your country, about your skin color,
Right.
about the prime minister, about the country. They will keep humiliating you. So you should be like over there. Third thing is keep one thing in mind that okay, there is nothing like that. Okay, you can be sleeping over there. Okay, like when I am having these kind of things, I ensure that the notification is at its loudest at that point of time, because what they do, they will say hi, and then they will just go away for 1 hour. So they are like,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They are not going to, because they are going to like test your patience, you know. See, please also understand what they are. They are very clear. They are over here. They're asking, like, you know, in one of the
no.
cases.
So, Hitesh, what you are discussing right now is more from the what is your role? I mean, what your
Okay. You're
feature?
saying from the company side? You're saying from
Yeah,
the company
what
side?
is the capability or what is the support you would need? Because see, at the end of the day,
Okay, sorry. Okay, so in that particular case, only one point of contact, okay, who's literally the decision maker, because there are times, like 9 out of 10 times, that I have to call up somebody and say, tell me fast. I need to answer him right now. So I need that particular person who already has a lot of approval. So let's say, for example, if it is Ronita in that case, Ronita should have, a certain kind of discretionary powers. Okay, Ritesh, go ahead and you can say this. Okay, Ritesh, you can do this. Ritesh, please do something else. So number one, I need that one particular person who has the discretionary power, because then there is no point if I have to tell Ronita that, Ronita, listen, he's asking for this. Okay, Ritesh, let me ask my CEO and get back to you. No. So here is the person who needs to tell me, and very, very quickly. And my calls will come at any point of time, 2 a.m. at night, 3 a.m. at night. So I need this person to be there with
To
me.
be there.
So I don't want any other person over there to whom I have to give the entire background story. Every time, every new person is coming and trying to tell me, and I have to keep telling them all these kind of repeat the story. So I am not over here to repeat the
contact is
story.
what we are looking at.
Yeah, single point of contact with discretionary powers. Third thing is, they cannot assume that, Arey yaar, okay, we have 10 days, 15 days. No, you have to assume you got only 24 hours. You assume that way. Sometimes they say, Arey, we read the negotiations went on for 2 months, 3 months. See, these are the people who have been into your systems for almost 3 months to 6 months. They are not going to let you go out easily. So the better you talk to them, the faster you give them your decision, whether it's a yes or whether it is a no. Okay. They are also going to go very easy on you accordingly. If you tell them, sorry, we don't want to pay, we don't want to communicate further with you. Okay, no problem. We will go release the data. Fine. We can't stop you from doing that. But we say, yeah, yeah, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it. And we keep giving them hopes. They are then going to come out very badly on you.
Can I just add to what Ritesh just said? You know
Yeah,
what? I can completely align and, recognize from where Ritesh is coming from. And the sad reality, Ajay, in today's, I would say, let's look at our country, okay, the Indian companies that are operating out of our country here today, or the multinationals also, that many of our organizations still follow a reactive or a very avoidant approach. When it comes to situations like this. And I'm sure, Ritesh has been dealing
nobody
with a lot of
communicates with the media.
corporates. Yes, yes.
They try to brush it over below the carpet.
Exactly,
That's what I've
exactly.
seen.
And unfortunately, this reactive or avoidant approach to all this communication crisis, this is what actually backfires. Because when you're doing it, fearing reputational damage, you're not open to kind of give those facts and be truly, let's say, proactively addressing the situation. You cannot avoid, what is going to come your way. I think that's where Indian organizations really need to realign and make themselves better trained and definitely more prepared.
No, but I think this point, Ronita, I think really identified the Indian organizations, the pain, the problem which they face through that they shy away to talk about a breach, right? And behind the curtains, what we have seen is they have made CISOs, the security teams, the scapegoat, who tend to lose their jobs after the breach,
Yes,
right?
yes,
This
yes,
is something which has really happened really bad with this industry, where you appoint a person to guard your whole digital infrastructure, and just one breach that may not have done a much of a damage to your organization. I'm not saying that all CISOs are absolutely good. There are few exceptions where who have missed out to doing their duty, but leaving that, most of them I have known personally have done their duty, right? And I've seen them leaving the organization, which is a very really sad part of it. That is where a communication team really needs to be, or an HR expert should be really steadfast that why that person needs to be there or why he needs to be laid off. right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll tell you, Ajay, the need is for a cultural shift. Because Indian organizations will have to shift from this hush hush, close the doors, don't bring it out of the cupboard, that culture, to become more accountable. Show that culture of accountability, because customers, I can guarantee you, whatever the case may be, they will appreciate honesty even during setbacks. They will stand by you. If you have the guts, if you have the courage to accept that, yes, there was, a data breach, we went wrong, we couldn't handle it, but we will do this better. We will ensure that your safety and security are our top priority. I can definitely, say that with confidence.
That's an interesting take on it, because I mean, I try to get this analogy or mapping it back to something called, 20 years back, we were, as a country, we were not comfortable talking about rape and rape victims, right? We used to do the same thing the way we are doing it to security, and I think we are in the same, not the same boat of the apathy which an individual would go through, but this is something an organization goes through, and they feel it as a black mark on their on the organization. But yeah, this is something, speaking more about it, and having trust in the CISO team is something which is really very very important, right? So Ritesh,
Yes.
coming back to you, what is something which, I think we have got last 10 minutes, and I want uh, from your side, that you have rightly said that, four things, which is, we are talking about able to take buzzwords, patience, able to talk to the teams and all. One thing is very important, is that these negotiations are really really very secret, and your role really becomes, I mean, uh, are you okay with, coming this in the public forum and discussing this? Because, why is this important to be spoken about? Because this negotiations needs to be secret. I mean, anything you speak on the public forum today is going to you being used against as your strategies with the threat actors. Why do we need to be still speaking on about this on the social media, on the public forums?
Yeah, because that is one way then you will stop paying them. Na? I mean, see, today what has happened is that we are enabling them, right? What are we doing as such? We are like empowering the hackers as such. Ki, okay, we will come, we will talk to you and everything kind of thing. But as like Ronita really said, and that is the most powerful thing of today's talk, that fine, everybody else is okay, but who reaches out to the customers? Just imagine all participants over here. Just imagine you get one email, okay, let's say from any organization that is breached, and it tells you, hello, we are sorry. And like how Ronita said, like, to say, okay, we went wrong or whatever, in spite of the best efforts, we were breached, but now we have put systems in place. Here are the things that you should be looking after, because, there could be a phishing attack. Your now number is this thing, blah, blah, blah. You tell them, you
Absolutely.
apologize to them,
Yes.
which what we see people in America and Europe always doing it. Why aren't we doing it? As Ronita rightly brought it out, because we just want to brush it under the carpet and keep it hush hush. But rather, instead, if somebody comes and tells this thing, hey, Miss Ronita, you had taken a particular thing from us, this particular car you bought, and these are the details which have got breached. Please, you will be subject to certain phishing emails or SMSs, which could be fake. We would just
Yes.
want you to be alerted so that nothing like this particular thing happens. Imagine now that you start this practice in the world, everybody in the country, also everybody starting this practice, going, owning it up. Because, like whatever defenses you put, as I always say, फिर भी सबका कटेगा. तो
Kateka.
कट ही रहा है ना, सबका कट ही रहा है, correct? तो जाके अगर एक बार ये सब बोलना चालू कर डाला, then what is going to happen, Ajay? Hackers will know now that even if we are going to be like, breaching them, these guys are not going to pay us. They are
Yes.
going and owning it up. With this, I'm sure the breaches themselves will come down, because in any case, all this data is anyway sold in the gray market for even at 50 paisa per record. Then why do I give him like so many of bitcoins, 10 bitcoins, which is like round about 100 crores that they demand, yeah, when I can get the data for 2 lakh rupees?
So crux is that the more things comes in the public, the more it comes
Yeah,
in public discussion, the better
yeah,
it is. And that's a way where we can discourage these threat actors to, not penalize
yeah, absolutely.
organizations.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think adding on to what Ritesh rightly said, Ajay, I would like to say that from the organization standpoint, you can always take proactive measures by having regulatory compliance in place. Because, with stricter data protection regulations that we see, that's kind of, in the pipeline, or we see that government coming up with, like, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, organizations will be legally bound to disclose breaches in a timely
Yes.
manner and in a proficient manner.
Absolutely.
And the second most important thing is educate your users. You still you haven't lost the battle. The moment this happens, you inform your users about the breach, you guide them on preventive steps, whether it is how they manage their passwords, they monitor their accounts, and show that responsibility and care. I think that takes care of half of the issue that has been caused by the data breach.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ranita. I think this is one topic which I would like to keep on communicating and discussing with the people, because I really feel for the teams who have given their nights to secure the organization. And I do not want communication to be, because I have this favorite song called "It's Only Words, and Words Are All I Have to Take Your Heart Away." I don't know if you've heard of that song,
Yes.
but it's a very, very romantic song. But it's very much true in this situation as well. But it's a communication which is really very important. It's going to take you places, that's going to help you to bypass seamlessly through this incident responses.